Welcome to April's edition of Not in the News. I have noticed that these episodes are definitely getting longer each time. I obviously have lots of things that I want to share with you, but I'm going to try and keep April's edition much shorter, especially as May's episode will follow closely on the heels of April because it is heavily linked to the event that I'm running in May, which I will explain a little bit more about at the end of this episode. So we normally start off with a few updates, and there's an update from our Bush Bingo. The April's version was celebrating Earth Day, and it was another good event, and a further £100 raised for the amazing David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation. So thank you to everybody that took part. Thank you to everybody who donated. And as I was saying, there's a different event running in May, so we have a month of Bush Bingo. During the Earth Day celebration at Bush Bingo, I took the opportunity to share some facts about things I've been finding out. And obviously I included some elephant facts, especially the one that recently the IUCN has announced that the African elephant has been split into two separate species. So you now have the forest elephants and the savanna elephants. Now this is really important because prior to this, they were actually only classified as vulnerable as a species. Now the forest elephants over the last 31 years have reduced their population by 86%. And the savanna elephants over the last 50 years has decreased by 60%. Now that they are separate species, the forest elephant is now classed as critically endangered, which is only one step lower than extinction, and the savanna elephants are now endangered. So the clear distinction into two different species of African elephant does mean that the conservation world can now further drive their initiatives towards the conservation of these animals in the wild. To finish off the update section of this episode, I just wanted to point you in the direction of eider ducks and to see if you might be interested in researching actually how the eider down comes from the eider duck into our wonderful duvets. It was an article that I read in the Geographical magazine recently, which is a magazine of the Royal Geographical Society, which I started subscribing to during our very first lockdown. And I have found so particularly interesting in lots of different areas where I normally wouldn't have spent the time to read up on. So I would thoroughly recommend finding out the story of the eider down in our duvets. And so to the charity that I'd like to highlight in April's episode of Not in the News. In fact, it is actually a campaign that is run by the Real World Conservation Trust and sets out to raise awareness for the threats that the iconic species face in their natural habitat and to raise funds for specific projects that they wish to support. So the campaign has many strands to their bows, and in fact the first aspect that I'd become aware of was in fact called Sketch for Survival, which involved raising funds through the medium of a variety of artwork. That has now grown, and there is Focus for Survival, which is a photographic based competition and fundraising platform, and also this year Stories for Survival. I in fact have actually entered that section, and maybe I will share that on another episode. They also host Carbon for Conservation and 21 for 21, which is this year's main fundraising focus, where they are looking at 21 specific projects. So the reason I'm highlighting this campaign is because on Saturday the 29th of May, I will be listening to an online talk by Robert Ferguson, who is one of the trustees and also runs the Sketch for Survival campaign. The talk coincides with the Wildlife Art Society International annual exhibition up at the Nature and Art Museum, Twigworth near Gloucester. And the funds raised from the sale of the artwork during the exhibition will actually be going to support the 21 for 21 projects as part of Explorers Against Extinction. So the exhibition starts at 10 a.m. on Saturday the 29th of May and runs all the way through until Sunday the 3rd of June. There will be some amazing artwork and sculpture available to either buy or just to look at. The artists that take part are truly very, very talented, and it's at the Nature and Art Museum, as I said, at Twigworth, just outside Gloucestershire, and it's free to go along and view the exhibition. So, but should you choose to purchase any of the amazing artworks, that the funds raised, as I said, will go towards Explorers Against Extinction, which is always a great thing to be able to support two things at once, artists and also conservation. The Wildlife Art Society International, otherwise known as TWASI because it's much easier to say, always use this art exhibition to raise funds for a different charity. And this is how I became involved with the exhibition, by going along and supporting on behalf of the David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation. This year, actually, I have to admit that I am ticking something off the bucket list and will actually have a piece of artwork being exhibited in the marquee myself, which is truly thrilling to be able to be a part of this event. So if you are looking for something to do during that week, during half-term week, the second Maybank holiday, then please do go along and see the wonderful artwork on display. Green initiatives or other aspects of our life that perhaps we might want to think about changing in order to help make the step in the right direction to saving our planet. And a lot of them seem to, in the past, have revolved around food, and this is no different. I'm wondering if it's because when we do purchase our food, it also involves an awful lot of packaging. And although we are very, very keen on recycling in this household, it still amazes me the amount of recycling we produce. So although we're reducing our actual landfill waste, we do still seem to be struggling to reduce the amount of recycling we produce. So have you come across Oggs? Now, as you can see, this is actually an empty box of their, what was in this one? I think it was chocolate fudge cakes. There we go. From a taste point of view, absolutely delicious. I can certainly recommend, obviously, because it's an empty box. But I just wanted to share with you that they even highlight how they are helping the environment on their boxes. So these items are cruelty-free. The packaging is picked with the planet in mind, so that even the plastic, which is what is actually wrapped around the cakes and not on the box, there's no plastic on the box, is 100% recyclable plastic, and when it ends up in the landfill, it is completely biodegradable, so that is fantastic. They only use sustainable palm oil. They're certified on the back for that. They're vegan, and they also use FSC certified cardboard to make it. They can be bought from a lot of your local supermarkets, so they're not a difficult brand to find. And as I said, they taste delicious and really are doing their bit to make sure that they've covered all aspects of their production. So still sticking with food and sticking with packaging, but perhaps making our little way to making a difference to the world. So while we're on packaging, I wanted to just share with you an envelope. Last year, we became members of the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust. Our local one is Slimbridge, and we do very much enjoy going up there and learning about the birds, photographing the birds and everything like that. But on one of their recent letters, I was very impressed to see that it's 100% recyclable, this envelope. I have a thing about envelopes with plastic windows because I do worry about them, but it actually says that the window is made of cornstarch, so it's plastic free, which is brilliant. Any printing on it is made by vegetable-based inks, which we have talked about in past episodes, and also that it's FSC again. So it's great to see that things that we take for granted, like envelopes with plastic windows in them, or in this case a cornstarch window, can't continue to be used without being detrimental to the environment. So now 2 dates for your diary. Well, it looks like May is going to be a very busy month. I have already shared with you that the 2nd May bank holiday week there will be the Twosy exhibition up at the Nature and Art Museum. Also in May is the annual David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation Wildlife Artist of the Year exhibition. It is online again for the 2nd year. But again, always amazing artist work. It is a very prestigious competition and an opportunity for artists to help raise funds for some important work across Africa and Asia. I will, in the next episode, give you the exact dates and ways of which you can log on and look at the exhibition online. But for myself, May will be busy because I will be holding my 2nd community online auction for the David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation. And that is what the May episode of Not in the News will contain. It will be effectively the auction online. There will be a variety of ways in which you can contact me in order to bid for the items, but I'm going to use the platform of YouTube to promote the auction, which was very successful last year, and I'm hoping to raise a few more pennies for my favourite charity. I will just add that Bush Bingo will be back in June, towards the end of the month, because then we will have actually been playing bingo for a full 12 months. So it will be lovely to have a little bit of a birthday party to celebrate the successful Bush Bingo games that we have had. So I often finish an episode of Not in the News with a quote. And I was trying to decide which one I would use for the April's episode. And I realised that it does feel that as the weather becomes brighter and warmer and the flowers are beginning to bloom and things are beginning to change, that perhaps we are more welcoming of our smiles and beginning to get happier and more positive in our outlook. So I decided to pick one from Mark Twain. What seems like an age ago, I was lucky enough to visit Mark Twain's house in America, and I don't think I'd fully appreciated actually how thoughtful very many of his quotes actually are. And this one happens to be my favourite, and I've picked it because it does make me smile and it does make me think very positively about perhaps everything that I've done and all the things that I want to do in the future. Wrinkles should merely indicate where the smiles have been.